You walk into a room, see some people, some furniture, a vibe, you leave. Someone asks what you noticed. You remember 3 things maybe, 4 if you were paying attention. A trained sniper walks into that same room, exits, can describe the position of every person. Who was left-handed, who was nervous, which 2 people knew each other before they pretended they didn't, where every exit was. What was wrong about the man in the corner? Same eyes, same optic nerve, same visual cortex processing the same light, hitting the same retinas. The difference isn't eyesight. It isn't some superhuman gift. It's a trained perceptual system that the military spent decades perfecting because lives depended on it. And it transfers completely to reading people, spotting opportunities, avoiding threats, and noticing what everyone else in any room consistently misses. I'm about to show you exactly what that system is. By the end of this, you will never walk through the world blind again. Chapter 1. The filter problem. Here's why you miss almost everything happening around you. Your eyes collect 11 million bits of information per second. Your conscious brain processes 40. Not 40,000, not 40 million, 40 bits. The rest gets deleted before you're aware it existed. Who decides what survives? Your reticular activating system, a small structure at the base of your brainstem. It filters incoming data based on one criterion. What does this brain currently believe is important? You buy a red car. Suddenly, red cars are everywhere. They were always there. Your filter just wasn't flagging them. The world didn't change. Your filter changed. This means your perception of reality is not reality. It's a highly edited version of reality constructed by a filter you never consciously programmed. And most people never program it deliberately. They leave it running on default. Default means it flags threats, food, faces, and things that confirm existing beliefs. Everything else disappears. Snipers and intelligence operatives reprogram the filter deliberately. The United States Army Field Manual on Observation Training describes a technique called salute. Size, activity, location, unit, time, equipment. Before entering any environment, the trained observer consciously primes these 6 categories. The reticular activating system now knows what to flag. The filter is programmed. The same room that yields 3 observations to an untrained eye yields 40 to a prime one, your version. Before entering any important situation, spend 60 seconds naming what you want to notice. Who has power in this room? Who is performing versus who is genuine? What the incentives are? What isn't being said? You've just told your filter what matters. It will find it. Guaranteed. But programming the filter is only step 1, because what you do with raw observation determines whether perception becomes useful intelligence or just noise with more detail. Chapter 2. The baseline game. Here's the thing that separates trained observers from people who merely notice things. Everything is meaningless without a baseline. FBI behavioral analyst Joe Navarro spent 25 years reading people for the Bureau, his foundational principle. You cannot identify abnormal behavior without first establishing what normal looks like for this specific person in this specific context. Most people see someone fidgeting and conclude nervousness. Maybe. Or maybe they always fidget. Most people see someone avoiding eye contact and conclude deception. Maybe. Or maybe they're introverted. The behavior alone tells you nothing. The behavior relative to that person's baseline tells you everything. Navarro trained his agents to spend the first portion of every interaction doing nothing but establishing baseline. How does this person normally hold their body? What's their default speech rhythm? What do their hands do when they're comfortable? What's their natural eye contact pattern? Once you have baseline, deviation becomes visible. Instantly. Automatically. The moment someone's behavior shifts away from their own normal, something changed in their internal state. Your job isn't to interpret the shift immediately. Your job is to notice it happen and ask what changed. Practical application. In every important conversation, spend the first 3 to 5 minutes only establishing baseline. Ask easy low-stakes questions you already know the answer to. How was traffic? How long have you been with the company? Watch everything. Build the baseline map. Now, when the important questions arrive, deviation is unmissable. This is why elite interrogators ask questions they already know the answers to, not to catch lies, to build the baseline that makes lies visible when they occur. Hit subscribe before you forget. The next chapter is the one that makes everything else compound. Chapter 3. The micro-expression window. Here's what's happening on every human face during every culture ever studied. Happiness, sadness, anger, fear, disgust, contempt, surprise. Not similar expressions. Identical. Down to the specific muscle groupings involved. Evolution hardwired them. They cannot be fully suppressed, only masked, and the masking always arrives slightly after the genuine expression fires. Ekman called the gap micro-expressions, genuine emotional response lasting between 1/15th and 1/25th of a second before the social mask covers it, completely invisible to untrained observers, completely readable to trained ones. The contempt micro-expression is one unilateral lip corner raise, one side only, lasting less than 1/10th of a second. It appears on the face of someone who believes they are superior to you before they smile and tell you they think your idea is interesting. You've been dismissed before the sentence finished. You just didn't know it. The fear microexpression is upper eyelid rise combined with horizontal lip stretch. It appears on a negotiator's face when you name a price they weren't expecting to hear. They recover in half a second and say, "Let me think about that." You just learned their actual position. They told you with their face before their brain could stop them. Ekman trained Secret Service agents, CIA officers, and clinical psychologists to read these at real-time speed. Average untrained accuracy at detecting deception from facial cues is around 54%, barely better than coin flipping. Trained observers reach 80 to 90%. The training method is simple and uncomfortable. Watch high-stakes interview footage with the sound off, political testimony, police interrogations, anything where the subject has strong motivation to control their expression. Pause on every visible expression shift. Name what you see. Rewind. Verify against what was being said at that moment. 30 minutes a day for 60 days. Your baseline reading accuracy changes permanently. Here's the problem, though. You can program your filter. You can establish behavioral baselines. You can read micro-expressions. And you will still misread situations constantly if you haven't corrected the deepest perceptual error most people make. Narrative capture. Your brain doesn't observe and then conclude. It concludes first and then observes only what confirms the conclusion. Psychologists call this top-down processing. Your existing story about a person or situation filters all new data before it reaches conscious awareness. Contradicting data gets suppressed. Confirming data gets amplified. You decided in the first 7 seconds whether you like someone. Everything after that is your brain building a legal case for a verdict it already delivered. Intelligence analysts call the countermeasure analysis of competing hypotheses. Before concluding anything about a person or situation, force yourself to generate 2 alternative explanations for every behavior you observed. Not the explanation that feels right. 2 genuine alternatives. Then ask what additional data would distinguish between them. The discipline of generating alternative explanations before concluding short-circuits narrative capture. Your brain cannot maintain the illusion that its first impression was objective once it has generated viable competing explanations. The story loosens. Reality becomes visible. To keep it simple, stupid. Program your reticular filter before entering any important environment. Establish behavioral baseline before drawing any conclusions about deviation. Train micro-expression recognition on real high-stakes footage. And generate competing hypotheses before allowing any narrative to solidify. You were never unobservant. You were never bad at reading people. You were running an untrained system on default settings in a world that rewards whoever has the most accurate map of what's actually happening. Now you have the training protocol. But here's the thing. Sharper perception produces value only when your brain can retain and organize what it observes between interactions. Most people notice more and remember the same amount as before. That's why I made this video breaking down the exact memory architecture that makes everything you observe stick permanently. It's almost unfair. Watch it next.